Hey y'all, hey, it's your girl Morgan Renee checking in for another story time with more of my Let's Pray This Phone Don't Overheat. I feel like it's in shade behind this bag. It's not connected to my other phone. I'm not doing a hotspot on it today, so let's just pray. Let's get through chapter 9. We're still in Trying to Sleep in the Bed You Made by best friends Virginia DeBerry and Donna Grant. I'm just gonna hop right into it. The quote that it starts off with says, "Sometimes love is stronger than blood." Balancing three. Oh, okay. Let me not act like I'm not at the beach. Let me show y'all what's going on. I am at the beach right now. That's why I look all sandy and whatnot. Very relaxing, and y'all know I love the breeze, so I wanted to come on here real quick. Let me take a little wine break. Cheers. Oak Leaf. I don't know if y'all, this is the cheapest Walmart brand of wine, but they got them in little to-go cardboard boxes, which I like, because you don't really know what I'm sipping on. Let me put that pinky down. I'm a Zeta. We can't be caught with our pinkies up. Jesus. With no AKAs. All right. Moving along. Chapter 9, Trying to Sleep in a Bed You Made. Balancing 3 cups, Pat peered through the tiny window in the CCU door. Can y'all hear me? Give me a thumbs up, because it's ocean in, so I don't know how I'm sounding to you all. Thumbs up, heart, comment, something. Let me know. She couldn't see Uncle Joe. Oh, I forgot. In the chapter previous to this, her play uncle and aunt, her best friend's parents, who took her in when she was young because her mother was unfit. They were renewing their vows, and he was falling down. I'm assuming it was a heart attack on the altar. Okay, so balancing 3 cups, Pat peered through the tiny window in the CCU door. She couldn't see Uncle Joe. Back in the waiting room, she gave a cup to Loretta, one to Uncle Macon. She took a sip of the muddy brew and glanced at Gail asleep on a vinyl couch. A doctor had come around midnight, said the attack was mild, some damage to the muscle, needed an anagram, maybe some blockage. They would schedule tests. Pat and Loretta took turns checking for news at the nurse's station. All night they listened to the ding of the elevator, the wheezing of machines, coughs, whispers, and the scrunch squeak of rubber-soled shoes. Now it was 6:15 in the morning, and they waited, still in their wedding clothes, until Macon looked worn out, and his tie had long ago found a home in his pocket. He jabbered about the lodge picnic, and every few sentences he'd say, "He'll be all right, Etta." Loretta tied and untied knots in her something blue lace handkerchief, half listening to picnic plans. She smiled weakly at Macon or pat Gail's hand and say, "Lord willing." Can y'all, I'm not seeing no comments or no thumbs up. Can y'all hear me? Yes or no now? Come on. Let me know. Can y'all hear me? I don't know if it's a lag on these lives. Okay, Cordell said hey, so I guess you can hear me. Okay, all right, thank you, Jesus Christ. All right, we in there. Okay, so Pat was glad Gail had fallen asleep. She was so hysterical when they got to the hospital, they wanted to give her a sedative. Only Pat knew she refused the pill because of the baby. On one of Gail's countless trips to the bathroom, Pat saw her hang up the payphone. Most of the evening, Gail had cried quietly. Pat didn't know if the tears were for her father or herself, but if ever there was a time for crying, she guessed this was it. Okay, thank you. You can hear me. Blessings, thank you. At 7, a nurse came in and asked for Saunders, and Gail awoke with a start. Joseph was stable and asking for his family. This was a good sign. She explained that one of them could go in at a time, but just for a few minutes. "You go in, Gail. I'll go next," Loretta smiled. "No, Mama, I'll wait till the next time. It'll do him more good to see your pretty face than to see this old one." Gail had never been in a hospital room, and this wasn't what she expected. 6 space-age beds formed a semicircle in front of a glass enclosure that looked like mission control. She tiptoed to keep her heels from tapping on the floor as she crossed the room. Joseph was sitting up. His green hospital gown was pulled low in front so she could see the wires and electrodes that tracked every beat of his heart on a monitor above his bed. An IV dripped in his right arm. A blood pressure cuff circled his left. Gail looked at the spikes on the tiny screen, then leaned over and kissed his cheek. He squeezed her hand and smiled. "Y'all been here all night? You should have made your mama go home and get some sleep." "We wanted to make sure you were okay, Daddy. Can I get you something?" "I want bacon and eggs, but I'll settle for some water." "That's why you're in the hospital now with a heart attack. Damn bacon." But I'll settle for some water. He nodded toward the pitcher on the nightstand. Hold on, I lost my place, y'all. Okay. Gail poured some into a plastic tumbler and inserted a straw. Joseph took a few sips. Gail, I have to talk to you about something important. Gail felt the lecture coming. What kind of man would stand you up for such a special family occasion? Daddy, I know you don't like Ramsey, but you shouldn't be worrying about that now. Child, I know you got that man on your mind, but what I want to say ain't got nothing to do with him. There'll be plenty of time for talking later. You should get some rest. Gail was relieved. She didn't have the energy or the conviction to defend Ramsey this morning. There was always going to be a better time, but yesterday scared me. It made me realize I can't wait around counting no later. Let me go back. Country talk. There was always going to be a better time, but yesterday scared me. It made me realize I can't wait around counting on later no more. Stop talking like that. The doctor says you'll be good as new. You won't like your new diet much, but you're going to be okay. Hush up, girl, and let me talk. You're as bad as your mama. You should rest, Daddy. They said just a few. He squeezed her hand. I will as soon as I've said my piece. This is something I should have said 15 years ago. Loretta stopped me then, but I can't go to my grave without saying it, so you just listen to me, baby girl. Gail placed her hand on top of her father's. I'll listen if you promise to stop talking about going anywhere. Joseph took a deep breath. First, I want to tell you I love you. I ain't said it much, but I want to say it today. I love you more than I ever loved anybody except for Etta, and that's different. The first day I laid eyes on you, you were screaming like a stuck pig, and I wanted to fix it so nothing would make you cry like that again. It just never was right. It just never was the right time to tell you. I know you love me, Daddy. Gail, this is hard enough without you keep interrupting me. He cleared his throat. Your mama and I, what I'm trying to say is, you're our baby girl. You're my heart, and everywhere a daughter can be. Never could have asked for more, excepting... Oh, wait a minute, y'all. Hold on. Because I ain't... These authors, boy, what? Hold on, y'all. Alright, I ain't even ready yet. Gail, this is hard enough without you keep interrupting me. He cleared his throat. Your mom and I, what I'm trying to say is, you're our baby girl, you're my heart, and everywhere a daughter can be. Never could have asked for more, excepting we ain't your real mother and father. You're not making sense, Daddy. I'm gonna get a nurse. The antiseptic smell of the hospital room suddenly made Gail queasy. Joseph's long brown fingers gripped Gail so tightly she felt them start to go cold. Your Uncle Macon? He was a super in a building on 143rd Street near where we used to live. He called me one day just before we moved to Queens, said it was an emergency. Joseph stopped to catch his breath. Gail could feel the chill in her fingers creep along her skin, seep through her pores, and settle deep into her bones. Haltingly, Gail's father told her how he hurried to the basement where Macon had his office, thinking it was some foolishness, as usual. But in the midst of crates, stacks of cardboard, light fixtures, rags, mops, and brooms, Macon sat in an old wooden swivel chair, holding an infant wrapped in a clean white shirt. Found her a little while ago out back, bundled up in old newspaper by the trash. Should have called the police, but I know how much y'all been wanting the baby. Y'all sure would do better. Y'all would sure do better by her than the city. Joseph couldn't believe their prayers had been answered. He knew it was wrong, illegal even, but a baby girl, a scrawny little thing not more than a couple of days old, and somebody threw her away. He touched her cheek with a long leathery finger. She opened her tiny mouth and wailed. Macon wrapped her up again and handed the bundle to Joseph. Go on, get out of here. And Joseph, I ain't seen you today. Loretta nearly fainted when he walked in the door, stumbled past moving boxes and handed her his package, but she quickly recovered and, as she heard Joseph's stories, she made plans for her daughter. The move couldn't have come at a better time. No one would know them. Gail Denise, Loretta had picked out the name years ago, would be theirs. A cryptic phone call to Reverend Hobson and a late-night visit to Mount Moriah produced a baptismal certificate, and everything was official. Uncle Macon was the only visitor from the old neighborhood, and when Joseph and Loretta returned to Mount Moriah 2 years later, tongues wagged and eyebrows raised, but to their face, everyone oohed and eyed over their beautiful little girl. It's not true. Gail wanted to vomit. The medicine's making you talk crazy. We should have told you before. Tears slid from Joseph's eyes. Gail swallowed hard against the pool of saliva collecting under her tongue. She realized her father had never lied to her, and she had never seen him cry. Not my real parents. Left like garbage? She wrenched her hands from Joseph's. I'm sorry, Gail, but she couldn't hear him as she ran from the room. How could you lie to me all this time? Gail screamed at her mother and Uncle Macon while Pat looked on dumbfounded. Oh, Lordy, he didn't. Loretta looked at Macon, who dropped his head. They both knew that what Joseph had done could not be undone. Gail snatched her purse and ran from the waiting room, down 4 flights of stairs, and hailed the first gypsy cab she saw on the busy Harlem Avenue. I gotta stop and take a drink. This is too much. Oh my God. So, just like her best friend, the people she grew up with thinking were her parents were not her parents. Her and her best friend got more in common than they knew. And her parents took in her best friend when she was going through all that stuff with her mom, who she thought was her aunt, and took her in. They had some really big hearts, taking in these abandoned children. Sorry if this is triggering to anybody out there. I didn't know this was going to be in the book. Woo! I want to cry. That's so sad. How could you leave a baby by the trash can, Lord Jesus? So Gail snatched her purse and ran from the waiting room down 4 flights of stairs and hailed the first gypsy cab she saw on the busy Harlem Avenue. The stale smell of pancakes and sausage from yesterday's breakfast still hung in the stuffy, hot air at home, just like Joseph's words hovered in Gail's mind. She moved through the house, opening windows, but fresh air didn't clear the memory. Upstairs, she turned on the shower, undressed, and stared at her naked body in the bathroom mirror, wanting desperately to see a difference. This baby was her only flesh and blood to link anybody in this world, and she clung to that because right now, she felt so alone. How can I stay here? Where should I go? Then she shivered from way deep inside, dropped to her knees, and retched, but only a bitter, filmy liquid was left. She dragged herself under the steaming water and scrubbed till her skin felt raw. Gail gathered all the photographs she could find. She ignored the ringing phone and examined every picture, looking for a sign, something she must have missed, but she couldn't find a clue. But she couldn't find a clue in the tiny face peeking out of a fluffy pink blanket in Loretta's arms. There wasn't a hint of a secret in the picture of her tentative first steps, with Joseph standing behind her, proudly holding her arms. Every photograph was regular and familiar, but for Gail, they told a big lie. Cordell said, that's got to be shocking to find that out about yourself, devastated, but thank God they were willing to take her in as their own and never made her feel like otherwise. Right? Doesn't that have to feel shocking? So, my brother is adopted, and I'm not sure, I can't remember when my mother finally told him. I think around 8 or so, he might have guessed or had questions about something, I can't remember. But then, this might be so pissed off at her sometimes. She, Children's Home Society came to his school one day. That's the foster care. And I guess he came home and told her about it, or she knew they came or something. And she was like, you know that's where you came from, right? Hopefully there's more backstory to it, but when she regurgitated the story to me, I'm like, that ain't no way to tell nobody that they're adopted. You know that's where you came from. I'm like, what the fuck? Anyways, Lord, help me with my issues with my mama. But yeah, that is devastating. And then her, so the best friend, for those that haven't been catching up the other chapters, her best friend, Patricia, she used to live with a lady named Ma Rain or something like that, thinking that was her mother. The lady was older. It was really her grandmother. And then her Aunt Verna, Ma Rain had died, and she went to go live with Aunt Verna in New York or somewhere, and living with her, and you know, she kind of not treated the best. Come to find out, the whole time, Aunt Verna was her mama, and who she thought was her mama was her grandma. So yes, that was still her blood, but that's still devastating to find out the woman that I know loved and took care of me that died is not my mama, and the woman that treated it was a bitch to me is my mama, and her mama didn't care about her. Her mama, Verna, she ran a liquor house, and she just didn't care for the girl, and that's why she ended up living with Gail, because her mama basically just something went down. One of their friends got killed when they was younger, playing around with a gun in the house, and then after that, because Verna would always be working at the liquor house, Patricia had tried to put something on the stove, and it was like a gas fire or gas leak or something, so social service came and took her, and Gail pleaded that her parents let her come stay with them, and so that's how she ended up with them. And come to find out, Gail parents ain't her parents either. Child, this book, woo! This book is booking. All right, let's get through it. Okay. So she's seeing all these pictures. She was like, what is that? Every photograph was regular and familiar, but for Gail, they told a big lie. No, she didn't look like either of them. Loretta always said Gail resembled her grandma Howard and left it at that, and so has she. Now she didn't even know what to call them because they weren't her mother and her father. Exhausted, she slumped on the stairs. She should have been at the boutique hours ago, but she couldn't worry about that now. Gail clutched a snapshot of her and Pat in the second grade, modeling the gypsy Halloween costumes Loretta had put together for both of them because Gail told her Pat didn't have a mother to make her one. Wait a minute. Gail clutched a snapshot of her and Pat in second grade, modeling the gypsy Halloween costumes Loretta had put together. Loretta is Gail's mom. Loretta had put together for both of them because Gail told her Pat didn't have a mother to make her one. Pretty funny. But she wasn't laughing. And when the doorbell rang, she jumped like it hit a raw nerve. What now? Then she heard the whistling and thought her heart would burst. She knew Ramsey wouldn't let her down. She flung open the door. Ramsey had a long white box tied with a red satin bow tucked under one arm and a stuffed panda the size of a 3-year-old under the other. There's my nightingale. I went by the job and they said you hadn't called. You had me worried. Gail threw her arms around him and nestled her face in his chest. This was going better than Ramsey expected. He figured he'd have to tap dance around his no-show, and he had put on his dancing shoes. But ever since Gail told him she had his butt in her oven, it seemed like he could do no wrong. He had played poker for 38 hours straight, and he could have gone longer, but nobody had money left to lose. Ramsey had buku green to line his pockets, and he floated way past cloud 9, higher than booze, drugs, or sex could ever take him. To add icing to his cake, the money he put against the Orioles had paid off too. When Bessie slipped him his proceeds, he said Marcus had gone hitless for the Saturday doubleheader and 1 for 3 on Sunday. He grinned long and low down because he'd already won Youngblood's woman. Now Ramsey had him beat on the ball field too. Ramsey tipped everybody at Bessie's down to the dishwashers. Went home and slept like a champ, and when he woke up on Monday, he knew what he was supposed to do because any fool could see she was good for him. Besides, he liked the sound of Ramsey Edward Hillard Jr. There was nothing at the office that wouldn't keep for a week, so he called Mrs. Banks, his secretary, told her to reschedule his meetings and to tell the garage to forget about the rebuilt transmission because he was buying a new truck. Whenever he won big, he put money into the business because it was a sure way to get ahead. Make sure the guys get out on time and don't run my business to the ground while I'm on my honeymoon. He hung up before she could ask any questions. Gail sat on the sofa to open the box. I thought something happened to you too. Some unexpected business came up and I had to take care of it. Oh, Ramsey. I've never seen flowers this beautiful. Gail held up one of the dozen pink roses with stems as long as her arm. And who's the bear for? He hitched up his pants leg and sat beside her. My son's going to need lots of toys. Gail's eyes sparkled. I knew he wouldn't leave us. Now, I have a question for you. He took her hand and looked into her red ram's eyes. She looked tired, but she was still the prettiest little filly he'd seen. Hope she don't get fat behind this baby. How do you feel about being Mrs. Ramsey Hillard? He's asking me to marry him. The words were like joyful music replacing the morning blues, and she sang, yes, with all her heart. Ramsey fumbled in his pants pocket. He stopped by a jeweler, asked for the best diamond they had, and counted cash while they nestled it in a blue velvet box. It was the biggest diamond Gail had ever seen, a marquise perched high on gold prongs. She was speechless, and as she put the ring on her finger, Ramsey's euphoria soared a level higher because only a big man could afford to take care of a woman like this. Ramsey was flying so high, he wasn't ready to land. He couldn't tell her about the weekend. That was none of her business. But he wasn't out of gas yet, and he liked company while he touched the sky. We could get married today. Today? We need blood tests, a license. I need to tell Mama and Daddy. Was what she started to say, but she remembered that's not who they were. Ramsey fingered his mustache. I got it all figured out, Nightingale. Leave it to me. He drove down to Elkton, Maryland, shotgun wedding capital of the East. It wouldn't take long for a justice of the peace to say some words over them and give them an X to sign by. Then they could go back to Philly, hop a flight to Miami, and catch a commuter to Nassau. He'd heard the casinos were lively, and he was ready for a new challenge. but I need to pack. She wanted to say, let's wait. Her wedding day was supposed to be the perfect event, recorded with pictures and a thick white album with gold edge pages, but she wasn't supposed to be pregnant either. And although she wouldn't admit it to herself, and especially not to Pat, she wasn't sure until he rang the bell that he was coming back. If Ramsey was ready to get married today, how could she say no? Ramsey took her in his arms. Baby, just throw some things in a bag. Whatever you need, we'll pick it up when we get there. He kissed Gail like he would swallow her whole, then she hurried upstairs. Gail stuffed clothes and shoes into an overnight bag, the only luggage she had. She was still too mad to speak to Joseph and Loretta, and since they had omitted some very important facts when it suited them, she could leave them out of this. They don't have to know everything I do. She moved quickly, hoping to get away clean, but she couldn't help glancing at her ring. It's at least 4 times as big as Brenda's. It was just like a dream. Everything that was happening. She never thought about eloping, but she never considered marrying anyone but Marcus either. Now running away with the man she loved seemed so much more romantic and exciting, and this baby would know her real mommy and daddy and that we love her. She put on the white lace sheath she'd been saving for a special date, because nothing could be more special than her wedding day. Ramsey drove like a bat on acid. Gail had never seen him like this. The scenery raced by so fast it made her dizzy. And the whole time he whistled pieces of songs, not finishing one before he took off on another melody. When he took off a VW so close she could read curses on the driver's lips, she said, when he cut off a VW, a Volkswagen. When he cut off a VW so close she could read curses on the driver's lips, she said, don't you think you should slow down? Don't ever think for me, Nightingale. Ramsey's threatening tone cut Gail to the quick, but she bit her tongue and stayed silent. To stop in Elkton took about as long as an oil change. The town was plain, not quaint the way Gail had imagined, but Ramsey led her to a jewelry store and made a big deal of choosing a diamond and emerald wedding band because green was his favorite color. Ramsey trilled the wedding march as Gail took her place by his side after a dusty fake flower arch. Then the voice in her head screamed, what am I doing? I don't know this man. But Ramsey took her arm and she settled down again. The justice stood barely higher than his scarred white podium. He then raced through the vows as fast as an auctioneer at a cattle sale. I do replaced soul, and they became man and wife. When they kissed, Gail swelled with a love that Ramsey had never actually spoken, but there'd be plenty of time for that. Then they were on a road back to Philly, and by evening, she and Ramsey were eating conch soup and fried grouper on a patio, surrounded by palms fluttering in the balmy, salt sweet sea breeze. How's my bride? Ramsey held her hand as they strolled along the beach toward the hotel, the ritziest on Paradise Island, Ramsey had assured her. Perfect. This feels like it was meant to be, Gail purred. I want to stop and see what's going on, Ramsey said as they entered the hotel lobby. But it's our wedding night, Gail pleaded. It'll only be a few minutes. Why don't you go up and get ready for me? I'll be there soon to tuck you in. He kissed her temple. You promise? Promise, he whispered, his breath hot in her ear. So she showered, dressed, and waited for 3 maddening hours until she heard the whistling in the hall and snatched open the door. Where have you been? She hissed. Oh, now, that's not how I like to hear my Nightingale sing. He tried to put an arm around her, but she stormed across the room. Ramsey strolled over, one hand behind his back. He thought she was cute with her brow all furrowed and that angry squeak in her voice. He liked taming it into a purr again. Baby, it hasn't been that long. You promised you'd be right up. And what kind of man would I be if I didn't get my wife a wedding present? He handed her a box wrapped in silver. Gail didn't know whether to take it or knock it on the floor. She glared at him. Come on, open it, he coaxed. It's our wedding night, Ramsey, and you left me all alone. But her anger broke like a fever. It wasn't gone, but the danger was over. There's a plenty of night left, he said. Now go on, open it. She snatched the box and turned her back while she ripped off the paper. It was a watch with a gold bracelet and diamonds around the face. How do you like it, baby? He was very successful at the poker table, and jazzed because he still had the power, he spent some of the proceeds on a peace offering. Ramsey came up behind her and massaged his hands over her belly. It's beautiful. She fastened it on her wrist. But all I needed tonight was you. His hands rose from her belly to her waist and came to rest over her breast, kneading them. And she turned to face him in the embrace. And you got me. He rubbed his hands along her hips and gathered up the fabric of her gown till he touched bare behind. Gail was about to speak, but the look in his eyes silenced her. It was wild and impatient with the hunger. I've been waiting all day, Nightingale. I need you bad. Gail was suddenly ignited by his need for her. They fell into bed, and she surrendered to his urging, groping, his ferocious thrashing. Gail could barely keep up until he shivered in an agony of release. Then his body went limp. She felt stranded between arousal and confusion as she listened to his panting relax into the low, deep breaths of sleep. The week flew by in a sun-drunk haze of clear azure water and lazy afternoons. Ramsey would disappear into the casino in the heat of the day. "I'm as black as I want to be. I don't need a tan," he said. Gail went once. She was about to drop some coins in the slot machine, but Ramsey told her only fools feed the one-armed bandits. She watched him play poker for a while, but he tossed $100 chips around like subway tokens, and it made her nervous. Besides, she felt trapped in the windowless deep green grotto of the gaming floor. She lounged by the pool singing Mrs. Gail Hilliard to restaurant checks with a flourish. She'd flip through magazines, make lists of what she needed to pack when she got home, and reflect on the secret her father had shared. The more time passed, the more she remembered about the people who taught her everything, gave her whatever they had, and demanded nothing in return. She realized that she wanted to be as good to her baby as they were to her, and that sometimes love is stronger than blood. Lounging on the deck of a sailboat, Gail finally told Ramsey about the drama she left at home. He tried to get her to call, but she couldn't face him on the phone. She shopped for presents in the duty-free shops. "When I get home, I'll put things straight." All right, that's the end of chapter 9. That was a very intense chapter, so that means it's only up from here. Sun's going down. I'm about to leave this beach more than likely, yeah, because I don't want to be out here when it gets cold. Thank y'all for tuning in, and I'll be reading another chapter again soon. Peace.